Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Tolusha Dove Francis. If this is your first time on this channel, please don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that when new videos come out, you would be one of the first, if not the first, to know about it. Now in my last video and my last video to you, I did talk about addiction, and I did say that I was going to talk about certain things around addiction. Now I shared in that video that addictions don't just start, they start as a habit. And then the habits grow into becoming addictions, and then from addictions you have compulsions, and then compulsions you have obsessions. Now each of them, start like that. You're doing something just once in a while, and then it later becomes something that you're used to. And then after a while, those are habits, basically like things that you do. You don't even have to think about them before doing them. You're already used to it, and so you just go ahead to do them like that. But then they become addictions when it seems as though your life or every day of your life you have to do those things. You can't do without doing those things, basically, right? Now, compulsions are basically as if a force is calling you, as if a force is pulling you. It acts as though your life depends on it. Now, for obsession, is as though your life is in that particular habit, as it were. It could be behavioral, it could be substance use, it could be behavioral, anything that it could be. Now, there are some people, and that's the crux of the matter that we'll discuss, there are some people that are predisposed to habits and addiction. Now, these people, it's very easy for them to get addicted to things, right? And that's the kind of thing that we call problem addiction, in which case it is very easy for people like this to get addicted to things. So it's important that you understand yourself and understand how quick it used to be for you to actually get used to something or begin to do something, and then try as much as possible to avoid it. Now, the problem is, for people like that, ordinarily sniffing in the smoke from tobacco, from cigarettes, from cannabis and the likes is enough for them to get high on those things. And there are also people that merely smelling alcohol is enough for them to feel like they have taken that alcohol. And so it's pretty important that you understand where you are and that you understand how predisposed you are to some of these things. Now, like I also said, addictions could be behavioral, and they could have to do with substances. So in terms of behavioral, you have things like pornography, you have things like gambling, sport betting or different forms of betting, masturbation, and a host of other things, which is very different from substance use, right? Now, when it comes to substance use, there is a physical thing that you're holding on to, and it requires you perhaps, spending money and things like that. So you're addicted to a particular substance or substances, which is very different from the behavioral addiction, in which case there's a change in your behavior, in which case these things either have to do with your body or what you feed your mind. So for example, pornography is what you feed your mind and your eyes, and the problem with something like that is it sticks in your brain, and so you replay. Now the challenge with porn is that you want to reenact what you have watched, forgetting that it's actually a movie, it's actually acting. There are actors. Some of those things are not real, as it were. And so you find yourself wanting to try them out on a real human being, perhaps your girlfriend, your spouse, as the case may be. Then you have things like gambling, which usually costs money. And the truth about gambling is you start with what you have, but then when you do not have any more, you're tempted to start stealing. So you can move from that behavioral problem to another behavioral problem, and it goes on and on like that. And then you have things like masturbation and a host of other things. Now, being addicted is not a death sentence. The truth is there is help. I will talk about this when we return. So welcome back. Now, when it comes to addictions, there is actually, the truth of the matter is there is therapy, there is counseling. Usually, there's what we call psychotherapy or cognitive behavioral therapy that people can go through. The thing is, it's very easy to build habits, but it's hard to break them. And that's the painful part. So you'd rather not start out a particular habit than start and try to break it. And so it's important that you understand when things that you do are becoming sort of habits, and are able to stem them and be sure that you are actually dealing with them. When you find yourself very used to doing something, now, before I go on, let me say that there's some habits that are good. Not every habit is bad. For example, when you wake up in the morning and the first thing that you think of is brushing your teeth, that's a good habit. I'm a victim. That's it for me. The moment I wake up, the first thing that my head tells me is get to the bathroom and wash your teeth, right? That's a very good habit, right? You take your shower, you take your bath before you go to bed. It's a good habit. You make sure that you wash off your makeup no matter how tired you are before you go to bed. Fantastic habit. You make it a point of duty not to speed while driving, not to overspeed. You check your speed gauge. Fantastic, awesome. Those are good habits and a host of other habits. So it's not every time that the habits are bad or detrimental to your health or to your lifestyle. Sometimes they may be helpful. Back to the topic of what we're talking about. Once you realize that you're struggling with a particular habit or behavior, you need to arrest it immediately. Don't wait until it takes charge of you. And I'll create this picture for you. The thing about habit is that there is a trigger and there is a cue. So take, for example, I often tell people that before you steal, you don't just wake up and decide to steal, except a kleptomaniac. So what happens? You see something or you think of something. That's a trigger. The cue is, where can I get this thing? And then you're beginning to look around for that thing and then you pick it. And so in dealing with habits, you don't deal with the final solution. Your goal is not that you would see something, you will not pick it. The goal is that even when you see that thing, you will not have that desire to pick it. And so in terms of dealing with habits, you're not looking at the final result. That is not where you start from. So imagine you want a tree to stop growing. Your goal is not to start cutting the branches and all of that. You actually need to remove the tree from the earth. But you cannot go all the way down to remove the tree from the earth. You start by removing what can give nutrient to that particular tree. So in terms of stemming habits or breaking habits, you start by dealing with the triggers and the cues, not the final destination. Remember, your goal is to get to the end, to stop taking that thing or stop performing that behavior. But you cannot stop that behavior without dealing with the reason why you are doing that behavior, you're carrying out that behavior. You're traveling somewhere, you want to get to a particular place. You don't just sit in your house and find yourself at that particular destination. You've got to move from point A to point B. Your final destination is where you're going to, but to get your final destination, you have to move. That's the way habits work. And so when you meet with your therapist or your counselor, or your addiction counselor, what they will do is to look at what is the trigger to this particular habit, which has become an addiction perhaps. How do you deal with the trigger? Note, you may not always be able to remove the trigger. Take, for example, you're in an environment and the trigger is within that environment. Let's say school, for example. You may not be able to change school, right? You may not be able to resign from your place of work, right? Because, I mean, you would eat, you would feed, you've got bills to pay. So your goal, how you attain that, is that you know what the trigger is and you change your response to the trigger, not run away from the trigger. You change your response to the trigger, and that's how you grow out of habit and addiction. Now, the truth is there are peculiarities to these things as well. It's not every time that it's as simple as that, because trust me, it can take you months to break an addiction. Don't forget, it's like when you want to drive a nail into two pieces of wood, you use the hammer. It's how consistent you're hitting the nail on the edge that drives the nail into the wood and then puts the two woods together. And so it's the same thing. Habits are things that you do consistently, you become perfect at them, and then it becomes an addiction. And the same way you were consistent and persistent until it became an addiction is the same way you have to be consistent and persistent with your sessions for you to actually overcome them. So I want to encourage you and admonish you that do not give up on that particular habit. I know and I get it. I might have tried a whole lot of things, might have cost you things, might have cost you money, might have cost you time and all of that. But hey, I want you to know that there is help. You just need to accept that, yes, you want to be helped. And that's the next thing we talk about. Look, nobody can help you unless you accept that there's a problem and there is help to that problem. If you keep thinking that you would fail, then you would never be able to overcome it. Yes, you might fall along the way. There is no perfection when you're dealing with addiction problems, because the truth of the matter is you're trying to undo something that you've been used to over the years. And it's not that easy. So you take it gradually, but you have to be ready to do the work. You have to be ready to put your energy, put everything that matters to you into getting off the hook. Go for your sessions, carry out your task, do what you're asked to do, and take it step by step. Should you fall off the cliff along the way, get back up. You would experience that. But that's why it means that you are moving towards healing, because you can't just move from what you've been used to doing and now changing your lifestyle. So of course, I do recognize that there are times that you fall off the cliff, but that's a sign for you not to give up. And let's hit it up. You also don't have to be there physically with your therapist to actually deal with this. And so forever you are in the part of the world, we can work this out. And if you want a physical session, please look around you, go online, and be sure that these persons have history of helping people recover from their addictions and their habit problems. I hope that you have found this video insightful, and I hope that it has really made sense to you. If it did make sense to you, please share with someone out there, and don't forget to subscribe. Stay jiggy.